it's different than the ones that are in Hesed House. We actually go out to the ones who are living in tents in their cars, on under bridges, just any place that they can't get into Hesed. Um, I'm a little nervous, so I'm trying not to speed through everything. One of our mission statements that we had for the ministry is that our mission is to help those who have experiencing chronic homelessness, and then those that are in danger of becoming homeless. That part of the mission statement we kind of modified a couple of years ago when it became evident with us that a lot of our homeless that we have on the streets wouldn't have been there had they had some prevention ahead of time. Their decision making, they made some really bad choices, and that led them to where they are. So we kind of modified that, but our goal is to provide love, support, and tangible items that they need on a daily basis. We were created to provide the Christ-centered services to our poor, the hungry, and our unsheltered homeless through the outreach of food and meals. We do Feed at the Soup Kitchen the first Monday of every month, and that's for our homeless and also for those that struggle with food insecurities. They come and we enjoy it. We love it. And then we do blessing bags, and we also do advocacy for a lot of our unsheltered homeless. We connect them with resources to help get them out of the tents and into housing is our total goal. Our main focus in this ministry is to put us out of business. Where there is nobody who's ever living in the tents, there would not be a need for us. A little background about me. I know it's shocking for a lot of people, but I've not always had a heart for the homeless. Before 2011, I would say I was one of those that I was scared of the homeless. I didn't know how to communicate with them. I didn't know how to help them. If I was at a stoplight, and I was in Georgia, so Atlanta has a lot of homeless. So when I was at a stoplight and a homeless person would come up, I would act like I was on my phone, busy in my car. I would do anything to keep from having eye contact. In 2011, I went to Haiti, and I had prayed when I went down to Haiti for God just to change me. I didn't want to come back the same. Everybody had said, when you go down there, expect God to wreck your world, and so I prayed for that, and He did. When I came back, became very evident then I could see people in need better than I could before I went, and I think it's because I had like a blinder on when I was down there. So a lot of when I saw down there true poverty and how they still loved everybody, and they came together, and they gave up their beds for us. And I thought, if they can do that there, why can't we do that here? So I knew that was something that the Lord was leading me to, but I didn't quite know what. And then in 2014, me and my daughter was riding around, and we were up here in Lincolnton. We saw Todd, but at the time, I didn't know who Todd was. I didn't know his story. I didn't know anything about him. I just knew it was July, it was hot, and he looked thirsty. And we didn't have anything to give him. So we went to the convenience store. We got some snacks and drinks, and of course, I got chocolate. For some reason, I think chocolate makes everything better. So I made sure he had some chocolate. And so we went back around, but by then he was walking up the street. So I told my daughter, I said, just pull close enough to him. I'll just hand him back out the window. Not a big deal. We got close, and he walked off, and then I said, well, get up there. And so she goes, and we did like 3 times, and went, okay. By then I'm seeing cars over like where China 1 is stopping. I'm like, honey, we look like we're running this man down in the car. I said, we need to stop. And let me just get out and go give him this bag. And so I did, and I asked his name, and for some reason I told him, I said, I'm going to pray for you. I had not planned on saying that. It just kind of came out. So when that happened, we got back in the car, and we said at that point, we were never going to be in that position again. We always wanted to have something in our car at all times, no matter who God put in our path, that we could give that to. So that's really kind of how Journey of Hope started. At the time, though, we just called it Blessing Bag Ministry. We didn't really have a name for it. And so when we got together, I was actually leading missions at Pursuit, which at the time was Harvest Cove in Denver. And they had room in the inn where they would bring the homeless from Charlotte in during the winter months and let them stay overnight. We would do feeding, and they took a shower, and I thought, well, we can do blessing bags there. I mean, that would be a good thing. And so that's when we started doing the blessing bags. But I felt like the Lord was really moving in my heart to do a little bit more than that. I had prayed I was praying a lot for God to show me, is this the direction that you want me to be on? Because I wasn't real sure. I wanted it to be God's ministry, not something I had convinced myself that God was telling me. And so I asked him one day, I was taking blessing bags to Pursuit, and I was like, I need you to put somebody like in my path. I said, you need to I need like right here, and make it really clear. And I felt like the Lord was saying, you need to go get gas. And I went, what? Go get gas? Okay. So I pulled in, and I'm like a creature of habit. When I go get my gas, I always go to the same pump because I like that pump. Well, I went to go to that pump, and they had a cone at that pump. And I went, well, I can't go to my pump. So I pulled up to the one right beside it, and I looked up, and there was a gentleman on the ground with his dog, and he was homeless. But then I pretty much know. And I was like, okay, Lord. And the parking spot in front of him was open, so I had a birdshot view of him. And I said, all right, if you want me to go minister to him, and this is your sign to me that, yes, I'm on the right path, leave that parking spot open and let that man not move. Because the homeless will move once people start coming around, they move. And I said, let him not move. So when I pumped my gas, I on purpose did not look. Because I think a part of me was like, okay, I'm going to turn around, and he's not going to be there. And that spot's going to be taken. And so I turned around, nope. That spot was still open. That man was still sitting there. I pulled up, and didn't know what to say. I said, Lord, tell me what to say, because I don't have no idea. So I pulled up, and I got out and went, are you cold? Do you need a blanket? And he was like, sure. And I said, oh. And I got a blessing bag too. And that started, when I got back in the car, I was like, oh. And then I felt like the Lord had told me. He said, you asked, and I answered. So that's all you need to do. You need to be my voice. You need to go out there, and you need to be the voice to those who feel like they don't have a voice. And so I said, okay. Well, at that time, I had prayed, and I said, I don't know how to do this. And when I prayed, and I was like, what do you want me to do? And my answer, and even to this day, it was like 350. I said, okay, God, I know you work in mysterious ways. I really do. But 350, you're going to have to give me a little bit more to go on than that. No clue what he meant. And so it was several weeks later, I kept praying, 350 stuck in my head. And I was reading an article of a gentleman in Hickory, and I was working in Hickory at the time, and they had gone out to the tent community, and they had estimated, when they were doing a pit count, 350 people. And I went, oh, so you want me to do something with the tent community? Gotcha, I can do that. No problem. And I said, I don't know what, and then it hit me, my blessing bags. And I said, well, we already do 120 something at Pursuit during the winter season. 350 is not that much more. I can do that. And instantly, it was like the Holy Spirit said, no. The 120 the church does. The 350, you're going to depend on me and me alone. And I went, well, if you want 350 bags done, you're going to have to provide it, because I have no idea how to go about doing this. I have no means. And he said, speak. Just ask. Just tell people what you're doing. Get it out there. All I need you to do is to be the voice. And I was, okay, I will do it. So I get on social media, and I'm like, we have a blessing bag ministry. We're collecting. I said, ain't nobody going to donate anything. I just know they're not. And I was overwhelmed with the number of people that were delivering stuff to my house. They were asking me to come pick it up. And the very first year after God told us 350, we did 410 bags. Awesome. And I sat there when we counted it all up. I was like, my math is off. Well, I'm a accounting person, so math wasn't off, but I added it again. And I said 410 bags the first year. So we knew that we were going to become a nonprofit ministry. And we did all the paperwork, sent it all in. And everybody kept coming telling me that with the ministry, you won't get approved the first time. And it'll take 8 to 12 weeks before you'll hear back from the IRS. And I was like, okay, well, if I don't get approved, I mean, this is God's ministry. I'll just do whatever they tell me to do and send it back in. And so when I got the IRS letter, I was like, read it, because it was kind of quick after I sent the papers in. And I didn't have my glasses on. And I was like, what did this say? And I went and got my glasses, and I went, We got approved the first time, and it was 3 weeks after we submitted. So I was like, this is God's ministry. God is going to open and close whatever doors he feels fit, and all we got to do is just listen to what he says to do and to go do it. Trying to get up to my little notes here. Our ministry verse at the time that we became is, I think that is the ministry verse that we go by. For I was hungry, you gave me food. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. The I am stranger, you welcomed me became so vitally important with us dealing with the tent community. A lot of them feel like nobody loves them, nobody cares about them, God has forgotten them. And our goal is to go and tell them, no, God has not forgotten you. He sees you, he loves you, and he just wants to help you. And I have been doing this, I've been out in the tent community for 10 years. This is our 10th year. And it's good and it's bad at the same time. It's good because they know, they trust me, but at the same time, I see the same 10 people, or the same people I've seen 10 years ago. Some of them, I think that's a lifestyle for them that they're comfortable with. Some of them, they just feel like there's no use, nobody cares. Why would they even bother doing it? We have come across several reasons. I think that's the next one. Let's see. Yes, our reasons for our homelessness. This is actually a true list. A lot of people always think that I'm naive and that I believe every story that is told, and I don't. I do know that there's drugs out in the tent community. I do know that the various alcohol abuse that's out there. I know that's a lot of reasons why some people are homeless. But I do also know that there are some of them that are homeless because of domestic violence. They flee, and that's a good place to flee when you're in the tent community because nobody can find you. Natural disasters, of course, we saw that in Western North Carolina. A lot of the people are now homeless. They didn't plan on being homeless, but their houses were flooded. We've had people that had a house fire and they didn't have insurance on their home, and so they're homeless. A lot of them made poor financial decisions, and that's what led to where they are now. There are a multitude of homeless that people don't realize that are in the tent community. They work. They actually hold jobs. They just don't make enough to get affordable housing. And that's the big thing, especially in our community. There's a lot of housing that's not affordable. You know, if you find a 1-bedroom duplex and you're paying $1,500, but you only bring in $900 disability, there's not much you can do. You're already behind the 8 ball on that one. There's a lot of mental health issues. I do know several of them that struggle with mental health, and there's a lot that have physical health issues that are out there. Some of them, there's a couple that's out there now, their landlord sold where they were living and bulldozed it down. So they had cheap rent with the landlord, but now, you know, they can't afford what's out there now. Our ministry is actually on a task force for the city of Lincolntown. And we're on the Affordable Housing Committee to try to find some affordable housing for some of our tent community, and even for some of those who are struggling as it is. They may need to get to something that's more affordable for them based on changes with their jobs. I saw a lot of change happen after COVID. Let's see. That's some of our interesting information that I just mentioned. About 40 to 60% of the people experiencing homelessness, they have a job. It's just they're unaffordable because of their wages and the rising rent, and the rent keeps going up every year for a multitude of them. The pit count, I participate in the pit count. The pit count is when it's a point in time count that they do for people living on the streets in one night. And we go and out in this area and count, and it's just the ones you can find for that one night. And last year we found 22 in the time constraint that they gave us to count. And we're working with another organization to widen the time so you can actually get people, because you don't go out to the tent community when it's dark. When it starts getting dark, you don't go out there. But of course, if you're doing a pit count in January, it starts getting dark like 5 o'clock. So to start doing a pit count at 5 o'clock is kind of counterproductive, so to speak. So we're working with them to try to start counting so we can get an actual count. But I know that we minister to at least 40 people that are in the tent communities in this area. We only operate for Lincoln County. That's one of the things that God had put on our hearts, to stay close to home and to minister to those in our area. And that's one of the things that we do. There are a number of veterans that are out there, which I think is shameful that any of our veterans who fought for this country should ever be homeless at all. So I will definitely be a voice for our veterans. It's just, the next few slides is pictures of some of the tents that we came across when we went out. All of these were pre-COVID. Once COVID hit and there was a lot of sickness going on, I would not take a group out. We meet at a location. We'll pass out blessing bags at the location that we meet, but I won't go out to where the tents are, just for the safety for the people who want to go with us. Some people want to bring their children. Sometimes some of the things they see is probably not appropriate for some of the children. This little slide here, this is the neatest tent that we came across. The gentleman would make sure that he swept everything around. He made his own bathroom. I mean, he took his trash off. It was extremely neat. We did realize that after dealing with and talking with a lot of our homeless, that there were ways that we could, as a ministry, start to help people not become homeless. And that goes to our homelessness prevention programs that we started instituting. Last year, we started with rental assistance. And the rental assistance was for anybody who was struggling, who were in the eviction process. They would contact our ministry, and we could, based on the funds that we had received, because we are not government funded. All of our funds come from private donations through churches, individuals, corporations. We just try to get people to donate to us, and then we allocate those funds to help. And rental assistance became huge for our ministry. They would contact us, and we would work with the landlord, and based on the funds, we may have to work with another organization that does the same thing in order to make that person's rent, but we would help them pay the rent and stay in their home and not be in our tent community. We did find, however, that we felt like we were becoming an ATM machine, and we didn't want to do that. So starting in January of 2025, we will be doing financial literacy. So if you want assistance from our ministry, we're going to have to teach you some tools that are going to help you in the long run. It'll help you not get stuck in the situation where you are. They'll be learning how to do a budget, connecting resources that may be available to you that you just don't know it. We had a mom who got food stamps, but she didn't know anything about WIC. And I was like, and she had 2 kids under the age of 5. I'm like, well, you need to go get WIC, because that will help you provide, and it frees up your budget for your food stamps. We're going to help them learn how to fill out applications. There's a lot of people that don't know how to fill out applications for a lot of these things. We felt it was very important for us to hold someone's hand and walk them through the whole process. I think it's easier when you walk somebody through something than to give them a piece of paper and say, here, this is what you need to do. We're going to become very invested in a lot of them. And that's just how our ministry had evolved from just the tent community to those who are in need, to keep them from being in our tent community. Then we also had started, and from August of last year to August of this year, we helped 13 families stay in their home and not be evicted. We also began to have a relationship with landlords, so that now when some of their property comes open, we'll be able to connect people to that property. We're building on that. That is a work in progress. So the food assistance program was super big, and that was kind of like my thing. I don't think in the United States we should ever have that many people with with food insecurities. There is, I think there's the next slide. In this county alone, there's 11.2% of the people living in Lincoln County that struggle with food insecurity. And that to me was shocking and alarming. A lot of them don't know the resources that they have. They don't know the pantries that are available. The EBT is not enough to cover them. A lot of people got EBT during COVID, and when those COVID funds ran out, the EBT went down, and they said, well, they've cut my funds. Actually, they didn't. It just went back to what it would have been all along. but they didn't know that because they had the COVID funds for 3 years, I think it was. So the food assistance, they can, anybody who struggles with food assistance, like the EBT hasn't come in or they run out or the refrigerator might have blown up and they need help, they can come to the ministry and we would give them a gift card to Aldi. We specifically picked Aldi so that people aren't tempted to take that food card and go get clothing. Like if you tell me you're hungry, don't go out and buy, pants. I'm giving you this so you can get food for your family. So we did Aldi, and from August of last year to August of this year, I want to say it was about 14, 15 families that we helped. Now when the hurricane came through, we opened up our food assistance, and that was fell upon our natural disaster category that we had. So anybody who lost power and lost their food, they could come, and it didn't matter whether you were on the bubble. If your refrigerator ran out and you lost everything, we would give you a gift card. All they had to do was just contact us. More than our other interesting information, more than half of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and they're only one crisis away from being homeless. And a lot of people don't realize that. And to me, that's shocking. And it's also eye-opening, but it also lets me know that there's lots of things that we can do to help people. Like I said, God put Lincoln County on our hearts, and that's where we were to be, and that's where He has us. He closed the door. We were in Hickory. He closed that door, but He said there's plenty of organizations helping in Hickory. There's plenty of organizations helping in Gastonia, and we actually do help those ministries. If we get things donated to us that we don't use, but they do, we send that out to them. Now for us, the Lord now has, and I knew He did. He told me several years ago that at one point I will be out speaking about, and I'm like, okay. Speaking's not my big thing. One-on-one, I'm good. Speaking to a group of people, I don't know about that. But the Lord said, you will. Just like when He told me, when we started the ministry, He said, there's going to be a day when I'll tell you to step away from your job. And I was like, no, I can't do that. I got to pay my bills. And He said, no, I'll pay your bills. And I said, okay. And I told my husband, I said, God's one day going to tell me to quit and do this full time. And he goes, well, I knew that. I just wondered if you knew that. And I was like, okay. And so when that came out, it was January of 2021. Actually, it started in 2020. I knew the Lord wanted me to leave in October and do this full time. And so I was like, when October came, which was in the fiscal year of the company I was working at, I didn't go quit. And I was like, I'm going to wait till after Christmas. My plan, not God's plan, my plan. I felt like the Lord took His hand off of me. My peace wasn't there. And I couldn't, it was like something inside, and it's hard to describe, but it was something inside me that said, you didn't listen. You didn't do what I told you to do. And so, and I was having some kidney issues at the time, and my work was not understanding about it at all. And I had told my husband, I said, they're not going to like this. And I hadn't mentioned about quitting. I was kind of like testing the water to see what he would think. And he kept telling me, and I said, I'm not sure. And then I said, I forgot to tell them that I was going to be out for my kidney thing. And I said, I really wish I didn't have to work. And he said, I've already told you to quit. You're either going to quit or you're not. And I was like, okay. And so I told the Lord that day, I said, all right, let me have one more conversation with my husband and see what he says. He told me that. And then I said, I'm going to I'll type up a resignation letter. I was telling my daughter, I said, I'm going to type up a resignation letter and I'll give it to him on Monday. And she said, why are you waiting? And I was like, well, and she goes, why are you typing up a resignation letter? I said, because I'm old school. That's what you do when you quit a job. You write up a letter and you give it to them. And I said, I'll do it that Friday. And I told the Lord, because I had 3 bosses, but they were never in the office at the same time. And so I was praying and I said, Lord, if you want me to do this, I'm going to be like Abraham. If you want me to do this one more time, you need to have all 3 bosses in the office when I walk in Friday morning. I already typed the letter up and I said, you need to do that. So I'm walking in there going, they ain't never in the office at the same time. 3 of them? No. I walked in, all 3 of them were sitting there and I went, Okay. All right. So I walked in there, and the main boss man was there, and I handed him. I said, "I need to see all three of y'all," and they came in, and I handed him. And when he touched the other end of the paper, I felt the peace come back, and I was like, "It's a done deal." I mean, I told him, I said I will stay and train somebody, and I did in January of 2021. I walked away, and at that moment, I was like, I don't know how our bills are gonna get paid. I have no idea. I felt like my check, and the Lord said, if you're trusting me with this ministry, you need to trust me with your finances. Mm-hmm. And from that point on, I've not had worry. I mean, anytime worry comes in, I hear a lady, I heard her once before, said, worrying is worshiping the problem instead of the problem solver. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm not going to worry. I'm just not going to do it. And he has provided all our bills, and I have not worked. This is, to me, like we were talking earlier, the ministry is not work for me. To me, it's my way of being the hands and feet of Jesus to show people that they are loved, that they do have value. They just need somebody to show them that they care. We went from homeless people not wanting you to touch them to now they ask me to hug them and ask me to pray for them. And they'll say, will you pray for me? And I'm like, yes, we'll pray for you. And they're like, no, like right now. And I'm like, well, I meant right now. I just didn't know what you meant. You know. And so we will pray for them like on the spot. We'll walk them through. They feel like they have somebody that cares. And I know when somebody's missing. And I'll go search for them. I won't take a group when I go search. I don't go by myself ever. But my husband would like kill me if I did that. But to me, it's a joy to be able to see that people, that we love them. And they know we love them. That's the difference, to see the change, to see them not wanting to have a Bible to, we give out Celebrate Recovery Bibles, and I write their name in it. And we have passages highlighted. Because it's human nature, when you flip through a book and something's highlighted, you're going to stop and read it. So we highlight passages, anything that's going to lead them to have a relationship with Jesus. That everything is highlighted. Personal passages God put on our hearts, we highlight it. And that's my opening line to them. It's like, what's your name? And like, well, why you want to? I said, because this is God's word to you. Mm-hmm. This is Him speaking to you. This is His love letter to you. Now, my tool is to give this to you and then let God do a work in you. And we've had multiple people who came out of prison. They said that's how they had a relationship with Jesus, is somebody gave them this Bible when they went to prison. And now they came out and they have a relationship. So that's the most important thing for us, is to make sure that everybody hears about Jesus. And I tell everybody, this is God's ministry. We do tell people there are certain ways that everybody can partner with us. A lot of people want to know how they can partner. Of course, the number one thing is monetary donations. I normally don't like to ask people for money. That's just not my thing. I just like to love on people. But all the programs that we have, they have to be funded somehow. And because we're not government funded, we do depend on organizations, people. We have set up like a sponsorship program for a lot of people. Some people like to do monthly donations. Set it up where it just automatically comes out their bank straight to us. Some corporations will do quarterly, or of course they do the end of the year with like Giving Tuesday. You know, they'll do a one-time donation. We have all those different things set up, but then there are some people who are not financially able to do things like that. So we tell a lot of people we take in-kind donation. That helps just as much. Anything, any pop-top, like you would do for Christian ministry, the pop-top foods, that's what we put in blessing bags to give out to people. Not just our unsheltered homeless, but for those who come to the soup kitchen who are in need. They get the same thing. We give the bags out to all of them. Any of the pop-top things, all of that helps. We tell people, volunteer. Come down with us to the soup kitchen. Spend some time talking to some of our homeless. A lot of them, they have some very interesting stories to tell. I know, just because I've done it so long, I know if that story has changed or if that story is still consistent. And majority of them now, their story is still consistent. We do have a website that people can go and look at, and we do have a flyer back in the back that breaks a lot of this stuff down, because I know it's a lot of information. And it has all of our contact information on there on how people can contact us if they want to become a partner with us in it. I do want to thank all of y'all for allowing me to come and speak. This is a new area that God's walking me through. So I do appreciate it. I've only spoken at a church, Salem Baptist, during Vacation Bible School. I spoke there, and it's easy when you talk to little kids. You know, because my granddaughter, she's 14 and she's been part of this ministry since 4, and my grandson, that's all he knows is this ministry, and he loves it, and he's all the time talking to people, and he's got such a loving thing. So I guess now we can open any questions, because there's no question that you can have. I'm sure I haven't heard before.
I have a question. You mentioned the soup kitchen a couple times, and is that where your office is, or is it down?
Well, our office, we just got a new office. We were working out of my home. Okay. And when we started doing rental assistance, a lot of my board members, and my daughter especially, she's like, everything's attached to your home address, and I don't want people that we've had to say no to come up to your house. Yeah. And so we got an office off of East Water Street, right across from Local Roots. But we started March of this year, the first Monday evening of every month, we feed dinner. They get lunch, and we got to thinking, you know, once you eat lunch, you don't get to eat again until lunch the next day. So we do a dinner. Okay. And we go in there and we feed them, we love on them, give them the blessing bags. We give out a gift card to the homeless so that if they need to eat dinner some other time, they can. And it's only a $10 gift card, but I feel like it's one more meal that you can have. Or if you go to Burger King or McDonald's with the $1 thing, you could probably get a couple meals out of that. But that's just one of the things that we do.
Okay. How many volunteers or staff do you have?
As far as the volunteers, that varies. We have 8 on our meal team. And then as far as when we go do distributions on a Saturday, I just usually put it out on like a Sign Up Genius on our Facebook page, and then whoever wants to come and help minister by passing out bags or praying for someone, passing out Bibles to those who don't already have one. So we've had up to 15 different volunteers at a time. And we're fixing to do our Christmas thing on December 2nd. That's our Christmas event. We started, I think this is our 3rd year, maybe our 2nd year, can't remember. Well, we come in and we do like a big dinner. We decorate everything in the soup kitchen so that it looks like a Christmas wonderland kind of thing. We have 2 people from my church at Covenant. They're gonna come and sing this year while they're there, and then we'll have a gift just for those who are homeless, and then we have food bags for everybody when they come through. And we enjoy. I get to catch up on a lot of people, get to hear, you know, some of the health struggles that they're going through. We can stop and pray. Praying is a big thing with us when we're at the soup kitchen. It's praying over. We pray over a lot of people there when we're there that day.
So December 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when.
What time do you open?
We start feeding at 5. I usually get there at 3 to start getting everything set up. I work closely with Regina, who's over the soup kitchen, and so we'll usually get there around 3:30 and start setting everything up. For the Christmas thing, we'll probably get there at 3 and set everything up, and then we start feeding at 5. We finish at 6 because you know it's getting dark, and a lot of them like to get out of there, and then we clean up, and we're usually gone by 6:30.
Do you need some volunteers for that?
Anybody who wants to come and help pray with people, I already got the meal people set, but I'm not turning down anybody who wants to just come and just minister to anybody that's in there. Yeah, you can always come. I'm not going to tell anybody no. The more people they see come and love on them, the better it is. Because for right now, they think nobody cares.
Do you help them medically? I mean, if there's people who have medical conditions?
We will connect them with people that, and especially if some of them have hard time paying for their medicine, all they got to do is come up and tell me. And a lot of, especially like with the rental assistance, it does not go to the person, it goes directly to the landlord. The food cards will go to the person. The medicine stuff, if you have a prescription and you can't go pay for it, I will go to Walmart or CVS or wherever and I'll pay for it there. I don't give the money directly to them because if you're needing the assistance for this, I'm going to pay for it and then you can have it. and you still get, you still get your medicine. I'm big on making sure that people have their medicines. If they need, like, if their eyes aren't, they're having trouble seeing, I will see and I'll try to connect them with an eye doctor who can help them. But a lot of times, some of the eye doctors won't do it because they don't have insurance. So I'm still learning a lot about, like, when they get in their disability, like, what all else do they have that can help. So I'm excited for January, when I can get all up in people's business and help connect them even more seriously to the resources that they have available. Oh, it's shocking the number of people who don't know the resources that are available in this county. They don't do that. Yeah, they do. There really is. Yeah. So we work close with DSS as well. Yes, ma'am.
That's kind of what I was wondering, because the Helping Hands organization.
Mm-hmm.
Does the homeless community understand how to utilize that?
No, and a lot of the ones that they're gonna, they go to Christian ministry for some things, but I think they think some of what they need, Christian ministry doesn't offer, and they don't ask. And I tell them, we have like a resource center that we do once a month at Christian ministry. All the groups, NC Works, DSS, all of them come, it's like a hub. All they gotta do is come in. And so my job, when I'm out there, is to say, if you need to go into the resource hub, there's somebody there that can help you. If you're trying to get on housing, the housing authority is there. Go talk to them. If you're struggling with addiction and you really, and the addiction is a big one, because when they get to the point they want to get off of it, you have to act right at that moment. You can't make them wait, because if you make them wait, they won't come. And so I tell them, but they say, I want to stop the drugs. I'm like, okay, we need to walk in here right now and talk to Phoenix or talk to Partners and get you going right. We had one lady, she came in, she was struggling with addiction. She wanted to get out of it. She came to me for a tent. And I told her, I said, and I could see that she was coming off some drugs. And so we connected her to Phoenix, who immediately got her into rehab. Got her detox rehab. She got into a sober living house, and I was in church one day, and she walked up to me, and she's like, I stayed with the program, and I like fell out. And she said, it's all because you walked me to that person. I would have got the tent and walked out, but you wouldn't let me. And I was like,
Amen.
oh my gosh.
Amen.
It gives me chills today to see the change in that woman. And now she tells other people. And so that's good for when you're struggling with addiction and you get away from that, and you can be their voice and tell them it can happen. That's huge, huge for us. But that was a great thing that day. Just connecting them and holding their hand and walking them.
Do you have a lot of illiterates?
I did have one lady come up to me, and she told me, and she's 54, and she told me that she didn't know how to read. And she was signing papers that she didn't know what she was signing. I said, well, number one, don't sign anything else.
Right.
You know, you might not know how to read. Bring it to me. I can read it to you so you know what you're signing. But quit signing papers you don't know what you're reading. And she said she had a basic level of reading. And then I told her, I said, I will walk you through. And I mean, I had grandkids, so I can teach people how to read. And she ended up getting help someplace else, and she moved away. But that was one of the big things. I was like, okay, well, and we do have a lady now there, she's deaf. And I knew a little bit of sign language, but meeting her this past month, I was like, I need to go back and refresh, because I think there's a lot of them that we have that are deaf, and they don't speak because nobody can communicate back.
Exactly.
And it was shocking for me. I was like, oh my gosh, I need to remember my alphabet, But it was really a neat experience. But that's some of the things that the Lord will show us, like as we get certain people in our path, of things that we need to incorporate and do. And the sign language was one of the big ones.
Right.
And then the reading with the one lady. I said, there shouldn't be anybody that doesn't know how to read. And she said they just let her go through school. And I knew when I was in high school, we had a quarterback. He didn't know how to read.
Right.
But they passed him because he was the quarterback. And then when he got to college, they had to admit that because he wasn't a quarterback in college, and he didn't know how to read. And I said, that shouldn't be.
Do you think you would start a program like that at some point?
Yes. Yes. It definitely. I think reading I'm a big reader. I love to read. And it doesn't do much good for me to give a Bible to somebody if they don't know how to read it.
Exactly. And that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So, And so she was the one, I think, God put her in our path to open up our eyes to that need as well. I always love when we go out because I never know what God's gonna open my eyes up to. So it's kinda like a little adventure when I'm with him, you know. Any other questions? I didn't do bad, 10-16.
You did excellent.